Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The cold, sterile hum of the horizon set engines filled the cabin as Commander Sarah Briggs floated through the ship's narrow corridor. She brushed past the blinking control panels and glanced at the crew all strapped into their seats, preparing for landing. They were headed for Alpha Vectris, a binary star system unlike any humanity had ever discovered. 2 planets orbited each other closely: Zethra, a harsh desert world, and Nivos, a frozen wasteland. The planets couldn't have been more different, but scientists on Earth had detected something strange. The planets seemed to share a mysterious connection, something deep and unseen that defied understanding. The crew's mission was to uncover that connection and determine if both planets could be colonized. Commander Briggs, a voice crackled through her earpiece. We were nearing Zethra, 15 minutes until landing. Sarah tightened the straps on her suit and turned toward the cockpit. Acknowledged, Lieutenant Kim. Bring us in smoothly. We can teach afford a rough entry. As she entered the cockpit, Lieutenant Rachel Kim Entz moved confidently over the control. Her eyes flickered between the blinking lights on the dashboard and the looming image of Zethra through the viewport. The planet surface glowed orange and red, swirling with sandstorms that whipped across the barren landscape. I've never seen anything like this, Rachel muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah took a seat beside her, none of us half-wit. Hope you were ready for what sent down there. The horizon descended through the atmosphere, the hull rattling as the desert winds battered the ship. Outside Zethra, sun scorched the horizon, casting long shadows across the jagged terrain. Despite the planet's inhospitable appearance, sensors had confirmed the presence of breathable air and water sources deep underground. As the ship touched down, the landing gear sunk slightly into the sandy soil. Sarah's pulse quickened. This was it. The beginning of humanity's next chapter in space exploration. Prepare for deployment, she ordered over the comm. Zethra team, you were up. Nivos team, stand by for your drop. The crew moved like clockwork, gathering equipment and strapping on their exosuit. Sarah watched as Dr. Ellen Rivera, the mission's lead astrobiologist, prepped his gear. He was a tall man with a quiet intensity, his mind always a few steps ahead of the conversation. Dr. Rivera, Sarah called out as he adjusted his oxygen mask. You ready for this? He gave her a small nod. If the data we collected from orbit is accurate, Zethra's ecosystem is unlike anything we've ever seen. I am more than ready. Sarah's eyes lingered on him a moment longer. There was something about Rivera that always put her on edge, his single-minded obsession with discovery. She respected it even if it made her uneasy. The doors to the airlock hissed open, and the Zethra team stepped onto the planet's surface. The heat hit them immediately, even through their suits. The wind howled, carrying fine grains of sand that scratched against their visor. Visibility slow, Lieutenant Kim reported through the comms from the ship. You are going to want to stick close to base camp until the storm dies down. Understood, Sarah replied. We'll start with short-range exploration. Dr. Rivera, you are leading the initial survey. The scientist activated his scanning equipment, sweeping the device over the ground. Temperature is fluctuating more than we expected. There's a lot of geothermal activity beneath the surface. We might be standing on a massive underground energy source. Let's not jump to conclusions yet, Sarah cautioned. Focus on gathering data. As they moved away from the ship, the landscape revealed itself in more detail. Rocky outcroppings jutted out from the sand like skeletal remains of ancient creatures, their surfaces etched with deep grooves, possibly from centuries of wind erosion. The ground was unstable in places, cracking beneath their feet as if something was shifting far below. Suddenly, a deep rumble vibrated through the ground. What the hell was that? Lieutenant Kimsel's voice crackled over the comm. Sarah felt the tremor through her boots. Everyone stay alert. That did feel like a normal quake. Rivera knelt and placed a sensor on the ground, watching as data streamed across his tablet. It's coming from beneath us. There's something massive down there, an energy pulse of some kind. Sarah's brow furrowed. Could it be related to the connection between Zethra and Nivos? Possibly, Rivera said, standing up, but we won't know for sure until we investigate further. We need to get underground. Sarah was about to respond when her earpiece crackled to life again. Commander Briggs, we've all got a problem on Nivos. It was Dr. Ellie Warren, the geologist leading the Nivos team. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Go ahead, Dr. Warren. What's that situation? We've uncovered something strange beneath the ice. It looks like a structure artificial. But it's very deep. We're losing comments with the rest of the team. The storms are getting worse. Sarah-san mind raced. 2 planets, 2 mysteries, one connected to energy, the other to ancient structure. Whatever was happening on Zethra was directly affecting Nivos, but how? Hold your position, Dr. Warren. We'll regroup and assess the situation. She turned to Rivera, her jaw set. We need answers, and fast. Meanwhile, on Nivos, the icy winds screamed against the team, suits as they trudged through knee-deep snow. Dr. Ellie Warren Schront's hands trembled as she scanned the ground beneath her feet. The equipment beeped wildly, confirming what she suspected. There was something down there deep beneath the frozen surface. Lieutenant Adams, bring over the seismic scanner, she ordered, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. Adams, a tall man with a square jaw, struggled to pull the scanner through the snowdrift. This better be worth it. Doc, I am freezing my ass off out here. Warren ignored his complaints and activated the device. The display lit up, showing a series of hollow chambers and tunnels stretching out beneath the ice, far deeper than any natural cave system should go. This isn't too normal, she whispered, her breath fogging up her visor. Someone built this. Before she could investigate further, the ice beneath her feet shifted. A loud crack echoed through the air as the ground began to collapse. Move. Now, Warren shouted, diving away from the fissure that opened beneath her. Adams followed, barely managing to avoid falling into the chasm. The ground shook violently as the storm intensified, burying their equipment under a fresh layer of snow. Warren's sour heart pounded as she grabbed her comm unit. Horizon, this is Nivos team. We were in trouble. The ground is unstable, and the storm is getting worse. We need immediate support. Static crackled over the line, but Sarah's voice eventually cut through. Hang tight, Warren. We reworking on it. The Zethra, it's not exactly stable either. Warren clenched her fists. Whatever was happening, it was beyond anything they had prepared for. Back on Zethra, the tremors had worsened. Sandstorms swirled violently around the team as they tried to make their way back to the ship. Commander, we need to retreat. Lieutenant Kim Sat's voice crackled through the comm. The storm seemed too strong. Sarah gritted her teeth. We were almost there. Keep pushing forward. Just as they neared the base camp, a massive gust of wind knocked Rivera off his feet. He tumbled down a steep dune, disappearing from sight. Rivera, Sarah shouted, running toward where he'd fallen. She found him at the bottom of the dune, half buried in sand, but miraculously unharmed. He was staring at something, a strange metallic object protruding from the ground. What is it? Sarah asked, helping him to his feet. Rivera brushed off the sand and knelt beside the object. This could be it. The source of the energy we've been detecting. It's an ancient commander. We need to excavate it. Sarah looked up at the darkening sky, the storm swirling around them. Not now. We need to get back to base and regroup. Well, come back for it. Rivera hesitated, clearly torn, but he finally nodded. Agreed. But we can wait too long. Whatever calls happening to these planets is accelerating. As they made their way back to the ship, Sarah's mind raced. Both planets were in danger, and the clock was ticking if they didn't find a way to restore balance between Zethra and Nivos soon. The entire mission, and possibly their lives, would be lost. Back inside the horizon, the storm raged against the ship hull, a constant reminder of the hostile environment outside. Sarah paced in the command room, her mind racing. Both planets were in peril, but the link between them was still a puzzle. Every moment wasted brought them closer to disaster. Lieutenant Kim entered the room, her face grim. Commander, the storm on Zethra isn't letting up, and Nivos is getting worse too. Communications with the Nivos team are intermittent. They were trapped underground, and the ice caverns are unstable. We need to make a decision. Sarah turned sharply. We've uncovered ancient technology on Zethra. Rivera believes it could be the key to restoring balance between the 2 planets. But we can't do anything without coordinating with the Nivos team. Kim's eyes narrowed. What if we don't have time? Nivos could collapse before we figure out what's going on. Sarah hesitated, her mind spinning with possibilities. The weight of the entire mission, perhaps the survival of both planets, rested on her shoulder. Every instinct told her they had to act fast, but without knowing the full picture, rushing could be catastrophic. She hit the comms, Dr. Warren. Report, what says your status? Static filled the line before Warren's voice broke through. We're trapped underground, but we've found something. There are structures here, Commander, built by an ancient civilization. I think they were the ones who created the connection between the planets. Sarah's pulse quickened. Do you think the technology you found can stabilize both planets? I don't know yet. We were still trying to access the deeper layers of the structure. But whatever it is, it's still thousands of years, maybe more. Sarah glanced at Kim. Get Dr. Rera in here now. Minutes later, Rivera stood in the command room, his face a mix of exhaustion and excitement. He was covered in dust from Zethra sandstorms, but his eyes were alight with discovery. We found a conduit on Zethra, Rivera began, his voice rapid. It sets ancient technology designed to harness the geothermal energy beneath the planet. I believe it's part of a larger system, one that connects the two planets and maintains the balance between them. Balance, Sarah asked, leaning forward.
Exactly.
These planets aren't just coexisting, they're interdependent. The technology keeps Zethra's heat in check while regulating Nivos' height. Without it, both planets would eventually destabilize. The storms, the seismic activity, it sank all because the system is failing. Sarah processed the information. So how do we fix it? Rivera's face darkened. That's then a problem. The system sounds ancient and it's deteriorating. The conduits on both planets need to be reactivated, but it's risky. If we make a mistake, we could accelerate the collapse instead of preventing it. Sarah stood, her mind made up. We don't have a choice. We'll activate the conduit on Zethra and coordinate with Warren's team on Nivos. We need to restore the connection. Kim looked concerned. And if it doesn't work, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Sarah replied, her voice steady, but we need to try. As the team prepared for the mission, Sarah knew the odds weren't in their favor. The technology was old, fragile, and poorly understood, but it was the only shot they had. Outside, the storm continued to rage as Sarah, Rivera, and a small team returned to the excavation site. The metallic object they had uncovered was now partially exposed, revealing a massive structure buried deep in the sand. Rivera worked quickly, attaching diagnostic tools to the exposed surface, his brow furrowed in concentration. This is it, he muttered, almost to himself. This is the heart of the system. Sarah's scum crackled to life again. Commander Briggs it, swore. We've managed to reach the control center beneath Nivos' surface. There are panels here, some kind of ancient interface. We were trying to figure out how to reactivate it, but it's delicate. One wrong move, and we could trigger a collapse. Sarah responded quickly. We're in the same situation here. We will activate the Zethra conduit, but we need to do it in sync with you. If both sides aren't reactivated simultaneously, the system could overload. Warren's voice was tense. Understood. We'll be ready. Rivera continued to work, sweat pouring down his face despite the arid air. Haas, looking up at Sarah, we need to divert power from the horizon to jumpstart the system. That's the only way. Sarah nodded, though the thought made her stomach turn. Diverting power meant risking the ship's core systems, including life support. But there was another option. Do it, she ordered. Kim's voice crackled through the comms commander. Are you sure if we lose power to the ship? I am sure, Sarah cut in. This is what we came here to do. We save these planets, or we die trying. The team worked quickly, connecting power cables from the ship to the ancient conduit. The ground rumbled beneath them as the ancient machinery slowly came to life. Lights flickered across the surface of the structure, and Rivera's face lit up in triumph. It's all working, he shouted. Be ready to activate. Sarah hit the comm Warren. We read in position. Are you ready on your end? Almost Warren replied, her voice strained. We were getting readings from the control panel. There's an energy surge building it. It's got to be now or never. Sarah's hand hovered over the activation switch on my mark. 3, 2, 1, activate. She slammed the switch, and the conduit roared to life. A massive pulse of energy shot through the ground, sending shockwaves rippling across the desert. The sky above them flickered, the storm momentarily pausing as the system reestablished its connection. Warren, what is happening on Nivos? Sarah called out, her heart racing. There was a pause before Warren's voice came back, breathless. It's not working. The ice caverns are stabilizing. The system is... Suddenly, a deafening crack split the air, and the ground beneath Sarah's feet lurched violently. She stumbled, barely catching herself, as the conduit shuddered and groaned. Something isn't wrong, Rivera shouted, his hands flying over the controls. The system sat overloading. Sarah's mind raced. They had done everything right, so why was it failing then? It hit her. The technology was too old, too degraded. It couldn't handle the strain of reactivation. "Shut it down," she yelled. "We need to shut it down before it—" But it was too late. A massive explosion ripped through the air and the conduit collapsed in on itself, sending a shockwave that threw the entire team to the ground. Sarah's ears rang as she struggled to her feet, her vision blurred. "Commander, are you okay?" Kimsek's voice crackled over the comm, barely audible through the static. "I'm fine," Sarah gasped, struggling to regain her bearings. "But the conduit, it's gone." Rivera was on his knees, staring at the wreckage, his face pale. "We failed." Sarah clenched her fists, her heart sinking. All their efforts, all the risks they had taken, it had all been for nothing. But then a strange sound reached her ears, a low hum almost like a heartbeat pulsing through the ground. She glanced at Rivera, who looked equally confused. "What is that?" Rivera's eyes widened in realization. "It stopped the system. It's still active underground. The explosion did destroy it completely. Its search regenerated." Sarah's mind raced. The system was older than they could have ever imagined, but it had been designed to withstand even the worst disasters. It's still functioning, still working to restore the balance between the two planets. "We haven't failed yet," she said, her voice filled with new determination. "We still have a chance. We just need to give it time." Lauren's voice crackled through the comm. "Nivos is stabilizing. Whatever happened on Zethra, it worked. The planets, they rebalancing each other out again." Sarah allowed herself a small smile of relief. They had done it. Against all odds, they had restored the connection. She looked at Rivera, who was staring at the wreckage with the mix of awe and exhaustion. "Let's head back to the ship," she said softly. "Our work here is done." As they made their way back to the horizon, Sarah felt a strange sense of peace wash over her.
The mission had been dangerous, and they had come close to losing everything.
But in the end, they had succeeded. The planets would live on, their mysterious connection preserved, and humanity had taken its first steps toward a new frontier.